saying to the older generation, we gain so much from your wisdom. We gain so much from your experiences and your skills. There is so much you have to offer that we need because we don't want to do it on our own. We're not meant to do it on our own. And the same applies for us and the generations to come. And if we look closely at verse 6, so if you're at your Bibles, if we look closely at verse 6, where the widow is pouring the oil, it says, and as she poured, they brought the vessels to her. When the vessels were full, she said to her son, bring me another vessel. And he said to her, there's not another. And the oil stopped flowing. Notice that from one generation to another, they worked together. The younger brought the vessel, the older poured out. There was that flow. She kept pouring and pouring, and it was only when there were no vessels left that the oil stopped flowing. She said to her son, bring me another vessel. And he said to her, there is not another. Then the oil stopped flowing. Now, as long as there is an empty vessel, there is always something to give. The next generation will always keep coming, and so we pour everything we have and all that we are into them. And if I go back to the quote where Eric Johnson stated, when we became believers, we were ushered into a continual flow of life. The flow has been purposed so that one generation can do better than the other. And it's not a competition. But from a father to a son and from a mother to a daughter, naturally you want your child to have more than you did. You want your child to do better than you did. That's why I believe Jesus could say in John 14:12, very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do works that I've been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. Jesus said we would do greater, and I never understood that as a kid. I was like, but you're Jesus. How can we do better than you? I realized it is because every generation is supposed to do better than the generation before. And that is how we accelerate as a church and as a body. Brilliant. And even if you're not a parent, the generations are clear in the church. Kids World will flow to G-Fresh. G-Fresh will flow to Raise. Raise will flow to Mainstream. And then Mainstream will have more babies that will go back to Kids World. So there is that flow. A few weeks ago that it's an injustice to your potential to live below what you're capable of. But I want to take that a notch further and make this statement to you, church. It is an injustice to the next generation to live below what you are capable of. It's an injustice to the next generation to live below what you're capable of. Why? Because we are made to pour ourselves out, to uplift them for their betterment and benefit. We each have a responsibility, whatever age we are, to pour ourselves out for the sake of the next generation. As we pour out, we uplift the next generation so that when our time is over, they can build and take it further. Did we get that? Okay. I'm going to drink water. Oh, it's not left. Am I going at an okay pace? Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah. You don't want me to spit my water on the mic. Okay. So I'm coming close to the end. Not quite there yet, but getting close. But for my final point, I'm going to look at another why. A why behind accelerate. And it's simply this. Number 2, it is where we find life. It is where we find life. Now, if we look back at verse 7 from this story, the very end, it ends by saying, she came and told the man of God, and he said, go, sell the oil and pay your debts, and you and your sons can, what on the rest? Live on the rest. You and your sons can live on the rest. By pouring out all that she had, not only did God make up for her lack, but she found life. Her and her sons could live on the extra God provided. And the secret to this, which isn't really a secret, is found in Matthew 16:25, which says, "For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it." God's principles are totally opposite to what we know in this world. His principle is that in order to go above and beyond, pour yourself empty. In order to find life, lose it. Give it away for Him. When you pour yourself out, it is where you find life. You find purpose. You find yourself. Pastor Rob even spoke and shared on it last week at prayer meeting. Hands up who was there at prayer meeting last week. I enjoyed it. But I'd like to quote him where he stated, "When a church congregates to get, it never satisfies its appetite. We only fulfill our appetite by giving. The only way the church stays healthy is not by getting, but by giving. Our health and our life is in giving and pouring out." And allow me to show you a picture of a healthy church. Please turn to Acts 4:32-36. Acts 4:32-36. I'll have it up there, but it's good if you have it in front of you too. Acts chapter 4, verse 32-36. This is a biblical depiction of a healthy church. It says, "Now the full number of those who believed were of one heart and soul, and no one said that any of the things that belonged to him was his own, but they had everything in common. And with great power the apostles were giving their testimony to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and great grace was upon them all. There was not a needy person among them, for as many as were owners of lands or houses sold them and brought the proceeds of what was sold and laid it at the apostles' feet, and it was distributed to each as any had need." The church was thriving because everyone was giving all that they had to the need. It was such an alive church. Every need was met by the willingness and generosity of the members of the church. A church that thrives is one that gives. A church that accelerates and goes above and beyond is one where everyone pours themselves out and gives all that they can. We haven't been designed to just sit and be spectators and take in and take in. But Pastor O'Connor said the only way the church justifies its existence is by getting and giving. We thrive as a body when everyone works together, generation to generation, uplifting one another by pouring out all that we are and all that we have. And that passage in Acts sounded a lot to me like CTJ, especially where it says the full number of those who believed were of one heart and one soul. Now, coming from our 14th anniversary, I loved that the theme was "I love my church." Who loves the church? I love my church. Whoa, getting excited. I heart my church. And it was so good to see different pictures of people who had, their signs saying why they love the church. And having one heart for the church and one heart for God. And it's so exciting and so much fun seeing the church alive, with people serving and helping and pouring out their time, resources, and energy to fill the need. Working with one heart and one soul accelerates the church. It brings so much life. And something I love also that verse 33 mentions in this passage is that it says, "Great grace was upon them all." Great grace was upon them all. And it stood out to me because we have learned that stepping in 2013, it has been called the year of what? Great grace. 2013 is the year of great grace. In this year that we are called to accelerate, thank God that we also have access to great grace. And so it is possible to give it all. We are constantly reminded of it.